Hello and welcome to the Mark Goldbridge channel. Quick transition if you've been from the United stand. Is there too much money in football? Lots of opinions on this. The short answer is yes. The big concern is what is the future and how long can this go on? The topical thing at the moment is obviously to talk about China and the impact that has just this week. We've had the last couple of weeks, Diego Costa and whether he should go. I think there's a sideline to that one because he's not like he's a Brazilian. He's at Chelsea to earn money anyway. But also in the news recently, Sky viewing figures dropping off. Sky viewing figures dropping off. Match of the day viewing figures dropping off. Why is that happening? Are football fans becoming alienated and disillusioned by the amount of money in football, the amount of lies and rubbish that we're fed? I think there's a point to be had there, and we all know, I'm not an advocate of illegal streams or anything like that, but we all know the availability of them, and we all know that you can go and watch a game quite comfortably and accessibly, and the standard's not too bad, and avoid having to pay these subscription fees. I personally don't. I wouldn't condone it. I have subscriptions to both in the UK, BT Sports and Sky, so I'm not being favourable there. They're the two you pay for. I pay for them because I'd rather sit and watch it in the comfort of my home with HD and watch the football I want to watch. But it is extortionate. Everything's going up in life. Costs, cuts, whatever. And some people, people have got to make that sacrifice. And if there's something available free, they'll go and do it. And also, a lot of people begrudge the fact that, was it last year Sky went and offered about 30% over what the Premier League were expecting them to offer. So they could have got it for 30% less, the contract. And they offered ridiculous amounts of money. They get the contract. They say, we're not going to make that money up by increasing the fee for the customer. I don't know about you, but my subscription to Sky Sports has certainly gone up. So they are taking it back from the customer. The fan, the customer feeds the money into football, and if the fan walks away, which I won't do, I'm not condoning that at all, then the football will suffer. £300,000 a week to kick a football around. I'd love to do it. We'd all love to do it. There is that bitterness, resentment, I suppose, with some people. I'm not bitterness. I've not got any jealousy. I would happily play football for £1,000 a week, but that's still 52 grand a week, isn't it? It's a fantastic wage. And when I was a kid, I wanted to play football. It was nothing to do with money because there wasn't that much money in football then. You got a decent wage in the late 80s, early 90s, but it wasn't what we have now. My nephew plays football. He's got the boots. He's got the Messi boots. He's fully aware of the money that's in football, and he's not even into double figures yet. That's the modern day. It's not their fault. But the money that they get is immoral. You cannot move away from the fact that a footballer being paid like Tevez, it's something ridiculous, like he's getting £1,000 a second or something like that, or £10 a second. Ridiculous amounts of money every week. This is coming in from China, where there's a hell of a lot of money. It is immoral. It is alienating. It is an issue when not all, but some footballers couldn't rub two brain cells together. Their brains are in their feet. They are given massive amounts of money. They're held up like idols, and they really aren't mentally capable of holding that position when it comes to the media and how they conduct themselves. Is it their fault? No, it's not. Whose fault is it? It's certainly not football fans. We just want to watch football, but we get held by the balls or whatever. No, that's sexist, but you know what I mean. We are basically held to ransom if we want to watch football. You've got to have your Sky Sports or your BT Sports. You've got to buy your shirts. You've got to go to grounds. You've got to get your season ticket. It all adds up, and this is where, for me, football is going wrong. And I think there is a tipping point. There is a tipping point because we don't have infinite percentages of our wages or our income to just keep going more and more each year, because everything else goes more and more. And at some point, each individual fan will go, I'm going to have to cut back on this, whether it's going to games, whether it's paying for your subscription, whether it's buying your kids the shirts or anything like that. At some point, it becomes economically not viable. And I don't think, and this is where I put the blame, I don't think the sponsors, the media companies, the shirt manufacturers, I don't think they appreciate this, because it's all about short-term targets. what the profit lines are, keep pushing them profit lines. 2016 they probably made 80% better profits than 2015, but they don't settle on that because somebody else might be in that marketing managing position this year and they've got to do better than last year. Well, how do we do that? We bring more money in. So it's not really the footballers. The footballers play football. They've got agents who are out to get them the best money there is. There's a lot of money there. There's an argument, and it's a good argument, that if there is so much money in football, then of course it is right that the players get the money. But who's driving this? The clubs, the sponsors, the TV companies. It's bigger margins, it's more profit each year, and they keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And how will it stop? It will only stop if the fans stop paying. And I don't think fans really want to stop paying. I think what's happening is fans can't afford to keep paying. Fans can't afford to keep going to games, can't afford to keep buying shirts, can't afford to have their subscriptions. I know it's repetition, but it is repetition each year. That's the whole point. The money keeps going up and up and up. And what do we get back as fans? The fans the United Stand, for example, or any other fan channel. Well, the United Stand, I don't know what any other fan channel model is, but the United Stand was set up to be a channel about fan opinion because the most important people in football are fans. So you take the fans away from football and you have no money. Sponsors aren't interested in paying to sponsor Old Trafford if it's empty and no one's watching on TV. The fans are the lifeblood of football, and sponsors and clubs need to appreciate that. There is only so much money you can make. If Wayne Rooney is on £300,000 a week, he'd more than get by on £150,000 a week. And that £150,000 a week could be used to reduce tickets for fans who go to the games. I'd love to see that happen. They go to the games, they should be rewarded, not disadvantaged each year with increasing ticket prices, which actually pulls away from the traditional football fan who wants to watch their club and moves more into the area where it's corporate, where corporate businesses want to go sell tickets, dine clients, and that's the way it goes. And that's another issue for fans. So is money ruining football? 100%. Of course it is. How do we solve it? You solve it with fan groups, fan communication, fan solidarity. That's how it gets solved, because without fans there is no football. And I think it takes fans a long time to realise that. I think the advent of fan channels is fantastic because it's a voice for fans to speak to amongst each other without bias. There's disagreement, yeah, sure there is. But when I was growing up, you watch football, you watch Match of the Day, Sky Sports, you listen to these pundits, and that's the only thing you've got really, apart from maybe talking to your mates at school or down the pub. There's not a mass community like we generate or anybody else generates anymore, and you sort of get brainwashed. And what the great advantage of all this is, and Twitter and everything else, is that us as fans have opinions now, and some people have, they're on Twitter, they can share that opinion, so that when a newspaper tweets out some nonsense about Manchester United secret signing to be revealed at 6 p.m, £100 million, and then at 6 p.m they've pulled you in and it's Dele Alli, you're like, that's a load of crap. Who are you mugging us off to here? Who do you think we are? We are educated football fans. Who do you think we are? But we go on Twitter and we all mug them off together and we all talk together. That wasn't an opportunity when you were a child or when you were growing up 10, 15 years ago. So it is growing. It is getting better. Now, the China issue is an interesting issue, I think. If you're Diego Costa and you're offered 300 grand a week to go and play in China, you'd think about it, wouldn't you? You'd think about it. There's the moral argument of surely you play football for the enjoyment of winning trophies, etc. But everybody's different. Everybody's different. Football's different, and people are different. People react to things differently, and he may feel that £300,000 a week is more important to him than playing for 100 grand a week in England and winning a Premier League trophy or battling for a Champions League. He's Brazilian at the end of the day. What loyalty does he have to England? Yes, he should want to play in the most competitive league. Do I think there's any future in China? No, I don't. I think there's an opportunity, there's a meal ticket there for footballers to go out and make a lot of money. I think it's very sad if players who are in the prime years of their career that go out and do it, your Oscars, because, he's a player in his mid-20s, he should be playing, if he's good enough, which I think he's not a bad player, in the best leagues. Playing in China, you might get to play against some decent players, but it's not a competitive league. I don't even know what the time difference is. I'm certainly not setting my clock to watch their football. You're not going to play in the Champions League. You're not going to play the best teams in the world. Is it going to help you as a player? No. But you can always go back, load up your online banking, play some chanting about your name and pretend that you're important, but realistically, you're just feeding your bank account. As a professional sportsman, surely you want to win things and test yourself against the best. But no, some people do it. I remember Asamoah Gyan at Sunderland. He was a decent player, very young, went to and played in Dubai or Qatar for a load of money. So there are mercenary characters out there. Some of you may be that way inclined, but I think the future of football, some people think that the Premier League is going to struggle in a decade's time. The landscape of football will change. Premier League is the most richest league in the world at the moment. The only league that I think that could potentially change the landscape of football is the American League, and it's whether they've got the appetite to do it, because it's English speaking, it's multicultural, it's massive. If they had the money to do what China's doing now and buying a load of players, I think they could potentially pull in the TV audience that the Chinese league won't. So it could work. It could work. Xavi's gone to Qatar too, says Darth Vader. Xavi's right at the end of his career though, and he's achieved everything. I think if you're in your what Wayne Rooney going to China, which he won't do, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I still think he's got something to offer in Everton or someone like that, but can they afford his wages? So he's done everything he wants to do in football. He's broken England and Manchester United records. Going to China might not be a bad option for him to go and bump up his wages and bump up his retirement fund. I mean, he's got loads of money, but some people want more. So people going and doing that at the end of their career, that's, can you argue with them? Footballers, the thing about football is there's a lot of money in football. You can argue that if there's a lot of money in football, then it should go to footballers. I'd be an advocate of that. But I don't know whether people realise that, League 2, League 1, Championship players are on lots of money every week, thousands of pounds a week. And, their footballing ability may not be any better or marginally better than a non-league player. There are fine lines between it. At least Premier League, they are the best of the best. Tevez is earning £1 a second, says Jordan Deflin. That was it. I don't know what I was on about. And Joe Keb says most Brazilians only play football to get out for fellas and goes to China to help their families to also get out of poverty. Yeah, there may be that. Sander Seegers says it will filter out the money grabbers from the true football lovers, which will improve the football in Europe. Yeah, there is that. There is always a spin. So football won't die because they go and play in China. What China are trying to do is what they've tried to do in most industry, because they are a superpower when it comes to that. They were taking all the steel, and now they're generating their own manufacturing, etc., and they're selling it to the world. They're a superpower with a massive population, and what they're trying to do with football is be the best at football. It won't work. It won't work because they won't be able to coach, train and produce top world-class Chinese footballers for many years. It won't work because the main TV audience that drives football is European, and we will not watch Chinese football avidly. It won't work, but they'll have a good go trying, and those players who go over there and do it will enjoy it. Ewan MacGyver says loyalty is dying. It is interesting. We were talking about that last night about Marcus Rashford. Yes, he's Manchester United youth. Will he be? Could he replicate what Giggs and Scholes did? I'd like to think so, but football's changing, so he might not. Mad Marcus, there's no loyalty anymore, and football is too commercial. Hi Mark, says Football Skills HD. Hello. Formula 1 is on the change, says Anthony Abderab. Mark, you seen Griezmann's brother's tweet? Literally teasing us. I think Griezmann will end up at Manchester United. Play to live or live to play, says Scholes Legend 18. Exactly. Live to work or work to live, isn't it? Exactly. If you can find a job that you love, brilliant. A lot of foreign players will go for money because a lot of them lives in poverty, says KNN Games. Well, they're not living in poverty if they're earning a good wage in England. How old are you? You look about 14 with a bad dentist and a poor sleeping pattern, says Michel Balzen. Been out for a couple of drinks, mate. Start your own channel, see if anyone watches you. Is that a bit arrogant? I don't know. I don't think it is really. If people want to come and give abuse, they're going to get buried, aren't they? Guys, you are being stereotypical and ignorant of South Americans, says Jordan Thompson. The players are going out to China for the ladyboys, says Oliver Anthony. That's Thailand, not that I've ever been. I wonder if people realise they have the power to change the game. Andrew Thompson, most relevant comment of the night. Yes, we have the power to change the game. There needs to be unity. I was picking this up about the disabled section in Manchester United, in Old Trafford, and the one thing that saddens me is that when I was getting my hair cut today, not many people have noticed that. I work in Birmingham, and so I was getting my hair cut in Birmingham. There was a stabbing last night in a bus, and I was talking to the hairdresser, and I was saying we were both agreeing that over the last 5 years, society has changed a lot. There's a lot more aggression, a lot more people in your face than there was 5 years ago. Obviously, with the social media generation, and we see it on Twitter, no accountability, calling people this, that, and the other, homophobic, racist, just utter vile. Society is changing, and it's not necessarily a good thing. United fans attacking United fans because they don't like somebody's opinion. United fans moaning about disabled people being given access to Old Trafford because they don't want to be moved. The X Factor generation is what I blame. It's been going on for years. People think, from when I was growing up, it's very different. People think they can be anything they want to be, and that's a good thing. But people also think that life owes them a living, and that's a bad thing. You've got to work. You've got to work hard for what you get. Some people get it handed on a plate, but you've got to work. When I was brought up, and especially my parents and their parents, the working class actually meant working class. You went down the mine, you went, you dustbin men, whatever like that. You got an okay wage for a hard day's work, but it was an honest living. You had a roof over your head, and people were satisfied with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting better, but everybody feels that they are owed better, and that's the problem these days. And everyone's got an attitude. Well, no, not everyone, but this generation thing that I'm on about. And I think that is the problem. There needs to be more love. There needs to be, I know it's a cliche, there needs to be more, kindness costs nothing, but it's the most rewarding trait in any human being. And if you try it, it is a rewarding feeling. If you help somebody or you are polite to somebody, it feels far, far better than being a vicious arsehole to people. But people seem to revel in that. So when it comes to how do we change football, well, we're Manchester United, and we need to be united. We need unity. Will that happen? No. There's too much hate. There's too much hate in football, and there's too many different factions. There's too many selfish attitudes. There's too much bigotry about I'm better than you because of where I'm from or how I am. But without a shadow of a doubt, and I don't know whether it could ever be done, if people united and just didn't turn up to any football ground for 2 or 3 games, meltdown. You've got your big TV companies, your big media companies, your sponsors, your football clubs. They have the power, but actually when you scratch the surface, they don't. They are supplied. We are the supplier. We're like oil. If you turn the tap off, they can't turn the light on. They can't. But we haven't appreciated that, and we don't understand that, and there's too much infighting amongst us, and we're too easily led and naive that we don't realise that we can turn off that tap. And if we did turn off that tap, we could change a hell of a lot. You could change a hell of a lot. You could do a lot of good. But there's too much. I would never do it. I wouldn't put myself forward for doing it. There are organisations out there like Must for Manchester United, supporters group. But, some people, I don't want to be told what to do. Who are you? Why are you, you can't do it. There's too much bitterness. But we do have the power to do it. I just don't think it will be done. George Best, Dennis Law or Bobby Charlton says Domestos bleach. I hope it's the real brand. Best for ability, Charlton for what he stands for. Those two for me. Dennis Law is a great, absolute legend, but it would be one of those two. We need more protests about ticket prices. Andrew Jackson again, we do. Scholes Legend 18, with technology, society has changed so quickly. I think it will take a while for people's emotional and logical processing to catch up and adjust to the social change, technological integration. Yes, fantastic point. There's no accountability, as I said before, with going onto Twitter or Facebook or anything like that and calling somebody a cunt or abusing them for the way they look, etc. We've had it tonight on here. I don't care. People know I don't care about it. I'm very calm about it. But some people do care. You read it in the papers, people going off and killing themselves, teenagers, this, that and the other. It's so sad. You've got a whole life ahead of you, and you will have turbulence as a teenager or any stage of your life, but there are kind people out there, and you should never, ever, ever, ever contemplate doing something like that. And I know it's all about mental illness and that lot, but if anybody ever thinks that sort of thing, don't let haters, abusers drag you down, because people who are like that realistically inside, to have that hate and abuse in them, they're insecure themselves. They won't admit it. They'll come back at you with a load of abuse, but deep down inside, to have that hate and abuse inside them, they've got to have their own issues that they are trying to compensate for. Kindness is the way forward. It's not a cliche. It's not airy fairy. It's the way forward. Treat others as you want to be treated. And I've got opinions. I'm passionate. I know I am, but I'm never abusive to people unless they come at me, and I still won't call them names. I'll just try and sort of give them a bit of banter and put them in their place. But there you go. Marcus isn't repeating anything because he's a disgusting pig. We've moved into the Q&A section now for 10 minutes, by the way. I hope you're enjoying the Mark Goldbridge channel. Do subscribe if you're new. Drop a like on the video. I do try and do them at least once a week, these big debates. And we will do other things as well. Jack Doyle's missed most of the show, basically just saying that money's ruining football, and that the only people who can really stop that, the sponsors, the clubs, the media, the TV companies, is the fans. But I think we've moved into a more society question that I don't think the fans will change it, because there's too much infighting. Even I'm a Manchester United fan, so there's too much infighting. I see it all the time. You can tweet something out. I mean, I can't because I get a load of shit anyway, but you could tweet something out and somebody will come back at you and call you a CUNT. I don't get that hate. I get the disagreement, and we've been doing it a lot on Twitter lately. If you follow us on @UnitedStandMUFC, we have started replying a lot more. We hadn't done it a lot really, but we have started replying and getting involved in a lot more conversation on Twitter, and it's good. I enjoy talking to people and having a debate with them. I don't like abuse. I don't like violence. It solves nothing. It's you might end up knocked out on the floor if someone punches you in the face after an argument, but you've won the argument, because if somebody resorts to violence or abuse, you've won the argument, because they haven't got the mental capacity to show empathy and express their opinion in a logical way. So they move to something that's illegal, because ultimately calling somebody a CUNT on the street, you get locked up for a public order offence. So doing it on Twitter is no different. Unfortunately, it's too vast to police, but it's still offensive and illegal. How much is BT a month? Says Martin Smith. I don't know. I do get it free through Virgin. I wouldn't pay for both. It's ridiculous amounts of money. It's only because I get it free through Virgin. But Sky Sports is it touching £30 a month now? I only really watch Man United. It annoys me. I'd like to see a system, and it would benefit Manchester United, and they could hopefully reduce ticket prices for those fans who go to games, who are the lifeblood of the club. I would love Manchester United to be able to do what Barcelona and Real Madrid do, and this should be available, that you should be able to buy a season TV package, because not everyone can watch Manchester United, and like Saturday when they're playing Stoke, you are forced to go and do something illegal to watch a stream if you want to support the club you love. Because what's the allocation for Stoke City away? A few thousand. Well, how many fans has Manchester United got in the UK? Million, easily a million. So how do we watch it? I would happily have paid to watch Manchester United play Stoke. I would pay a £5 to watch it on telly, a tenner. I'd happily pay it, and so would many other people. But we're not allowed to do it because of fairness, So you force people to break the law. Dante Gerrard, money is everything nowadays. It's stupid. I mean, personally, money's not everything to me. As long as I'm comfortable and I can supply for my family and buy the things I like to buy without being excessive. I ain't got a fantastic car. I could break the bank to do that. A lot of people do. But I'm not driven by money. I know some people are. Mark, do you think United should have their own official channel? They do. It's called the MUFC. Is that a joke? You should have a debate with Stephen Howson. That would be awesome, says Tom Stevenson. When you read a comment out and you wish you hadn't mentioned that name. All I can say about that is I would happily do it. There is no issue with me. I would happily do it. But if you go and ask him to do it, you're just going to get a load of abuse. So I wouldn't do, but I'd happily do it. I like how a Real Madrid ticket or Barca for a season ticket is £90, which is really good. The German clubs have got it right, Beck, how old they have. Manchester United are reducing seat capacity to have more space for disabled people, says Haraz. I agree with that. I do agree with it. Disabled people, they're a small minority that get into the football ground. Definitely should. Could we see a £500 million player in our lifetime, says Brad McNamee? The way things are going, we could, we shouldn't. I want to see prices reduced for the amount. The more players cost, the more money's coming out of our pocket. It's a simple equation. If we did sign Dele Alli in the summer for 100 million or Griezmann for 100 million, we as fans will be paying more next season in ticket prices, shirt prices, sponsorship, and TV subscriptions. If everyone came together and said, look, you're all taking a pay cut by 10% so we can feed money back to the fans, why footballers love fans so much, which they don't. They'd do that. They don't, though, because we're just a meal ticket. Any FIFA career mode this week, Andre Jack? I don't know yet. Retro Element, Howson hates you. Yeah, probably does. I don't hate him. It comes, to be honest, that is the point, isn't it? I don't want to talk about that, but that is the point. There's too much hate. There's too much division. There doesn't need to be. There's nothing that could never have been resolved by a private conversation or a conversation in this sort of situation. It was only ever a disagreement about football, but people take it to a ridiculous level because they're unable to differentiate between hate and kindness and empathy and respect. And a disagreement about a football opinion does not go to you're a cunt, you're a wanker. Why did you know what I mean? There's no need for it, but there's too much of that in society in general and also within football, where people, if they disagree, you're a nonce. I don't know what an L is. I've been called an L a lot. If anyone knows what an L is, let me know, because it means nothing to me. People keep calling me an L, and I'm like, I don't know what it means. But these names, what's that all about? And if we're face to face and you call me this name, all I'm going to say to you is, what are you on about? Why are you so uneducated that you cannot get across to me what your frustration is? And I will replicate that frustration by saying, I understand your point of view, but this is my point of view. What we're having here is a disagreement. You don't have to convince me that you're right, and I don't have to convince you that I'm right. We're just having a debate. It's what happens. It's what normal people do. Of course, when I say, why are you so uneducated? I'm probably going to get a smack in the mouth because that's their reaction to it. But why is their reaction to that? Why can't people just communicate with empathy and kindness and disagree and debate? That's what life should be about on any level. And I'll argue that with anybody. But will I ever turn to abusing people? No, never have. Will I ever start punching people in the face? No. It's not the way I approach life. It's not how I want my children to approach life. It's not how my family approach life, my friends approach life. It's not the way to do it. There we go. Thoughts on Griezmann's mother? Yeah, we've talked about that. I'm going well, Joel. How are you doing? Kieran Kennedy, House and charge foreigners to show them local pubs before kick-off. I don't know. You know what? I don't necessarily think he did. A lot of people are saying that his website's racist. Again, I don't think that was him. I think it was somebody who was working for him. It's people falling out over football who support the same club at the end of the day. Ridiculous. Absolutely no need for it. Ziad says, Mark, what was the conflict between you and the United Stand, and why is there so much bad blood? Pettiness on both parts. Basically what I just spoke about there. Unable to have a debate without it going to abuse, which I don't like bullies, so that then it just turns into an argument. But there hasn't been an issue for a long time. There isn't an issue anymore. I think the big stumbling block is that we're independent and they're owned by a TV company who ultimately would like us not to exist, because we are we're not competition, because we're very different and both complement each other. But I don't know. I think it's just an irrational dislike, and some people will look at me and say, I don't like you. They don't know me, but that's their choice, isn't it? I don't know. I don't have any issue with any of them, and I know that nobody else on the United Stand does either. So that's all I can say from our part. But you probably get stuff by, if you ask them anything, they probably go, don't want to talk about him, don't want to talk about them, they're shit, don't want to talk about him, he's a bellend. I mean, what sort of response is that? I don't know. Can't wait for tomorrow's United Stand show. Keep up the great work, says Tommy Sproul. We've got a new show for you tomorrow. I can't wait for it. Barring any big transfers breaking tomorrow, this is going to be a fantastic show on the United Stand tomorrow night at 8:30, and you can get involved. Mad Marcus says, Mark, how much was your season ticket for Forest? Well, it was 1988 that my dad had a season ticket at Forest, so I can ask him how much it was, but with inflation, I would imagine it was probably less than 100 quid. But I was only about 8 years old, Mark, so my pocket money would never have covered that. Mark, do you think United will carry on bringing young players through with all the money in football, says Jake Shorrocks? Well, the flip side of that argument is it's economical to bring youth players through. But the flip side to that is that I heard something the other day, it was either Chelsea or Man City had put a down payment of £1.5 million for a 13-year-old. So you start paying silly money for 13-year-olds. So this is the problem with money in football. It's getting more and more immoral. It won't be that long before people are paying 8-year-olds for £1 million just on the off chance that they might be a decent player when they're older. And what does that do to an 8-year-old then? It becomes immoral when it involves... It's immoral already, but it's becoming more and more immoral with... buying 13-year-olds for £1.5 million. I mean, I think footballers live in a bubble anyway. And when I was growing up, you'd see a footballer down the pub, a local pub, and people would go up to him and pat him on the back. You're not going to see Wayne Rooney walking in a pub now. Well, you might do if you're having a wedding, but you know what I mean. It's not going to happen because they are superstars and they live in a bubble. And I challenge anybody from the age of 17 who's been paid thousands of pounds a week to have any grasp of real life. When everything's chucked at you, you go into a shop in the shopping centre, you've got the money to buy the whole shop, but the shop assistant is so happy that you've come in, they're giving you free trainers. As a footballer, you don't actually have to put your money in your pocket much at all. Your boots are supplied, your clothes are supplied, people are giving you massive discounts to move into a certain area. You're going to end up being a certain sort of... Women are chucking themselves at you, men are chucking themselves at you. You're going to end up being a certain sort of person because you've got no grasp of reality. When do you think we'll be challenging for the Champions League again? Says Jack. I think next year we'll win the league. The year after that, Champions League. Kyle says you sound like an old man, Mark. You've got to give me more than that, Kyle. I don't know what you're on about. Mark was Man City who paid the money for the kid. George Kyle, thank you. Could we see a World League, says Brad McNamee. I think Manchester United would like a European League. The problem with the European League is you get a hell of a lot of... Well, a European League would be very dangerous because you wouldn't really... My initial thought was you might struggle for attendances, but I suppose if United are at home to Juventus, you're going to sell it out. If United go to Juventus, you're going to sell it out. You will still get fans travelling, but they'd have to travel quite a lot because you'd have a lot of away games. There'd be a lot of money in the European League. A World League, what's the point? The best teams are in Europe. Do I like American sports, says Jordan Thompson? I do. But Mad Marcus is trying to wind me up about Forest, which he'll never do. But what I would say about Mad Marcus is I asked him to come on the show tomorrow and for this new concept as the first guest, of which there'll be many, and he bottled it. Mad Marcus bottled it. I would rib him about that. Thanks everyone for watching. I didn't realise it was 9:30. Got things to do. Hope you've enjoyed it. We just do a little different background like that every now and again, and a chat amongst ourselves, something topical, and then into a Q&A. We will do it more, and I'll always feed it off the back of a United Stand show, and it's normally the preview. But thanks everyone for watching. Drop a like, get comments if you're not watching, and remember to subscribe to the channel because this isn't the United Stand, this is the Mark Goldbridge channel, and click that bell when you subscribe so you get the notifications when we're live. Cheers everybody, back tomorrow at 8:30. Don't miss it. It's going to be a cracker. See you soon.